I feel like there's a theme here, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Something is
You can't
uniform.
you can't smell the fish sticks.
No. There's something we're gonna talk about, but I can't quite
I need you to
figure it
trust
out.
the Gordon's fisherman.
Next
one.
wait, can you say that?
Next.
Welcome back to another episode of Ugly Thirds. Today's topic is We Want Fish Sticks, Johnny's Jersey Stories. Johnny, take it away.
Did you grow up like knowing that meal once a week was either going to be fish sticks or chicken tenders?
Chicken tender, because I hate fish. I
Yeah,
hate
oh,
fish.
likewise. But we still had it and dunked it in ketchup to cut the taste of it. But yeah.
Well,
Speaking of which,
I was going to lead in with you can't demonetize what's not monetized. So.
That's a bad point, but we put everything with ketchup, FYI.
Yeah, but now look at us. We've cut it back to just French fries, hamburgers,
Maybe.
steak sometimes.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. A bridge too far, sir.
You have a book.
I have a book. So there's been a lot of talk around the Islanders fishermen. It came back in reverse retro.
Mm-hmm.
People are wearing, oh, look how cool it is. I wore one to work, and people said, look how cool that is. And I'm like, excuse you? People don't know the story. And so a commenter mentioned this book. I swear I found this book or as a PDF. It was someone's like master's thesis for their marketing degree or something. I found a PDF. I started reading it and then it disappeared, and then this book came out. I swear it's the same. I didn't obviously finish the PDF. This book by Nicholas Hirschon. We Want Fish Sticks. Jersey Cam. You want to see if Jersey Cam can work starting early on?
Set the tone.
That's it.
Who is that mascot?
That is Niles, spelled N-Y-I-S-L-E-S.
How stupid of me to not know who Niles is.
And there's actually no one knows when they stopped using Niles. They switched
Nobody
to
knew where he came
2002.
from. Nobody knew when he left.
But this book was excellent. It is more than just about the rebrand. It talks about the team a lot as well. There's a lot of the hockey talk, so I won't be spoiling that aspect of it in any way, shape, or form, other than talk about Mike Milbury a bit, because that's where he joins the team. And I didn't realize how long he was there. Like, oh my God, and how ridiculous he is. I mean,
I've heard stories, but
I mean, the man did climb into a crowd and beat a man with his own shoe as a player. He doesn't change much as a coach.
That's old-time hockey, though.
Yeah, it's old-time hockey.
So let me start off the bat with you. This whole idea of Gordon's fisherman was an internet rumor before the internet rumor was an internet rumor.
And it's not true. It's not true at all.
That's wild to me, because that's the story I grew up with. They couldn't use it because they were being sued by Gordon's fisherman.
So
where did that come from?
Let's start with the story. You are jumping the lead, so we'll get back to that. Don't let me get. And I was going to grab other jerseys that are out on the rack out there, but it's okay. I had forgotten.
It's fine.
Look, it really starts in 1988 with the Los Angeles Kings. They get Wayne Gretzky, and they switch in that press conference from purple and gold, and gold, to black and silver. That's when that change happens. Okay. And that is seen as the start of jersey culture, at least when it touches hockey. No one buying hockey jerseys was for little kids, like the hockey sweater, and for a select number of fans who must be there a lot. You look at old footage from even the 90s, very few people understand.
Everybody's in sweaters.
Right. So, and not hockey sweaters either. Like the stuff you'd wear.
Penny sweaters.
Right. It starts with Gretzky. And and the Kings sold so many jerseys. Even in Edmonton, there was a story in here that a shop in Edmonton sold 70-some Gretzky jerseys, which you think of how that went down. That's saying something.
It's the trade.
The trade.
The trade.
And so this opened up a whole new stream of revenue that the NHL had never seen before. Just did not exist before. And the idea of selling merchandise was now, how do you buoy flagging sales in tickets? How do you put money towards players? we are talking increases in hundreds of millions of dollars, starting with that Gretzky trade
Right.
and that rebrand.
Right, and you and I have always talked about how there comes a point in jersey collecting where you have to understand you're not going to get that jersey from that time period. It is not something that's mass marketed to people.
Mm-mm.
You're going to have it recreated. And that is usually, for me at least, with the Sabre stuff that I'm trying to do, that's usually early 80s, late 70s.
Doesn't exist.
Does not exist. And if it does exist, the sizing is so radically different
We're much bigger people now.
that an XL back then is fitting me at a medium now.
Yeah.
So you have to take all these things into consideration, and for me, it's not worth it. Like,
No, find a modern throwback.
Get me a CCM vintage and let me do what I need to do to it. But
so the Islanders were founded in 1972 on Long Island. This has been the logo since the start. And this is actually their inaugural jerseys looked exactly like this.
Yep.
Map of Long Island, Islanders, the NY, and there was even some they've always been trying to get in on the New York market and ignoring largely Long Island, which those 4 counties goes way out. I mean, that's it's a very long drive from one end of Long Island to the other. Yep. And in 1994, the Islanders lose to the Rangers in the playoffs, outscored 22-3 in a 4-0 sweep. The Rangers go on to win the Stanley Cup that year, which takes away the Islanders' big chant of 1940, and the Islanders ownership freaks out. They think this logo, which it was slightly different striping, it was this but in royal blue. So, but good luck finding that.
But you are fresh off a dynasty in the 80s. Like, how do you think this needs to be the time? Hard break.
They felt that the fans were associating this look with the recent loss, with the team that loses to the Rangers in the playoffs. They didn't think of it as the dynasty team anymore.
Wow.
And it doesn't. So combine that with a whole bunch of new NHL teams, Ducks, Panthers, Lightning. They went and reached the NHL was looking at some of the teams that had stale brands. The Islanders, I think, were 24th out of 26 teams in merchandise sales. And hey, if you're willing to put something new in, you can make hundreds of millions of dollars. And considering that they had a ridiculously terrible lease with Nassau County Coliseum, the Nassau Mausoleum, as it's nicknamed.
Did you guys ever make it to Nassau?
I did. It was awful.
Phil, did you go to Nassau?
Yeah, we did do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
we went the last year.
Yeah, wasn't there last year?
That was the last year because we had the special cut. It was 40 years, something like that.
What an experience!
It was awful.
Grizzled.
The concourses were so itty bitty that was
our seats. I wish I could find a photo of it. I should put up there. Our seats was obstructed view, so we were in the second to highest row, and we could not see the opposing goal because the luxury seats sat down. So you literally had to go down and look under to see the other side. It was because Montreal.
Crouch down. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I'll see if I can find a photo of it.
And so 11% of their ticket sales went to the county. 40% of the sign revenue, the advertising, went to the county. And that lease was in order until 2015. So they were locked in and not going to have anything good happening.
That's wild,
isn't it?
That is wild to me.
So they were okay. What ways can we get? And they looked to rebranding. SME, Sean Michael Edwards Design. SME Design. They designed the Florida Panthers, the Toronto Raptors, the modern Philadelphia Eagles logo, the Carolina Panthers look.
You got the resume.
The Angels, the Reds, the Mets, the Mariners. As far as the best in the world for design at the time, maybe even today, it's SME. That was them.
Okay.
And so they went to SME and they asked for new logo. And they toyed with all sorts of things. And unfortunately there aren't a lot of the other concepts in here. Allegedly there was a walkthrough of the rejected designs, and I guess more people took away that they could have went with better things than what they did.
But you think about the time that you're in. Look at what else is being done. Burger King, Wild Wing, people are going from that traditional look to something more goofy.
And the Florida Panthers were the big one because again, that's an SME design. Look how much money it was making. Or the Mighty Ducks, they just signed a $600 million TV contract in part because of that look and that logo and that connection. That these teams in non-traditional markets were making money hand over fist, and the Islanders in a very traditional market were not. And so they became very have-nots. Now, Niles, the mascot, was actually the year before. They tested this out the year before wearing a traditional uniform. There was a car battery attached to a fanny pack that ran a light on the top of his helmet for Islanders goals. The guy who was in it was beaten mercilessly by children and adults alike. Everyone hated him. And he's named Niles, Nyisles.
That's phenomenal.
The thing, they came down to, and so Ed O'Hara, head of SME, and then the mascot was designed by Pat McDarby, and they started asking, what is an Islander? Because, like, okay, we have the island, we have the logo, but what is an Islander?
A loaded question.
And
this end of the island is very different than this end of the island.
And so they start looking away from New York City towards the rest of Long Island.
Yep.
Long Island. And
Long Island.
And it just became like, okay, so what is this? What should? And there were even tropical. There were palm tree ones that are just like, you guys are nuts. And apparently dinosaurs were pitched because they were there millions of years ago. Like, and do you know what it actually came down to? Oh, do you have a picture of those seats?
Yeah. So first of all, young me and you, by the way. I figured I'd throw that in there. So there's the young me and you.
Many pounds heavier too.
This is 2015, almost 10 years ago. Me with no beard.
Sorry, I was laughing about
hair
the
still.
Thing I heard today.
First of all, the box, which that is the box.
Oh my god.
That's the only technology they had.
That's worse than what we did when we were announcing junior hockey.
That's when we were down in Potomac Patriots. Yeah. So that's why we took a photo of that. And these were our seats.
That is obstructed view.
And that black part up here,
that's the upper deck.
That's the upper deck. That's how we had to see, and we were literally, I think, two rows up from.
That's how they designed stadiums back then. That's how they did it.
Well, and there was additions too, I'm sure. Anyway, so
sorry, Phil. I was laughing at something I heard on the radio.
Like you listen to radio. Do you know what they came down to when it's what is an Islander? Billy Joel's Downeaster Alexa. The song from the Stormfront album, talking about the plight of the baymen trying to make their living with fishing, can't make a living as a bayman anymore, and Billy Joel going around as the Long Island boy from Hicksville, Long Island, and doing benefit concerts for the baymen. That's what they came up with that is an Islander. So a grizzled fisherman with the nets. Now, they invited Billy Joel to everything they ever did, and he never showed up to a single one.
I can't say I blame him.
Other than doing concerts there for himself. Never went to anything. No association. Turned down any chance to be associated with it. But the song Downeaster Alexa, which I guess we'll have to put in the comments, or put in the description.
I'll put in the show notes.
That's what an Islander is.
Yikes.
And it would be a Venezuelan designer, and Andrew Blanco would design the logo that the Islanders would go with. This.
This is great.
Now, so they did toy around with ideas of just a script logo with Islanders and this lighthouse being the eye. The Islanders rejected all of it, saying,
"Oh my god,
those other teams are making money with logos, not word marks. We don't want that." And so the lighthouse would be bumped to a shoulder patch.
That's awesome.
So this look of a grizzled bayman in his sou'wester coat is what they came up with. And it leaked in the Daily News, which misreported this as being black, not navy blue.
Which is why we have those black ones sitting out there from time to time. Oh,
and it was utterly hated by everyone from the start. Now, there are very few people who actually claim any touch of this design. Poor Blanco, it's his logo. Like, he can't get away. It is a logo, one of, I'm sure, hundreds that were made.
It is what it is.
One of the owners, Stephen Walsh, is the only one who came out in favor of it at the time. And I guess they didn't focus group it. There was no talk. And they attribute a lot of why this went as far as it did is because it was all yes men. Are you going to argue with ownership? They pay your paychecks. And so it just steamrolled ahead. No one was willing to step up and say, hey,
by the way.
And because they didn't focus group it, like as soon as someone mentioned Gorton's, everyone went, ooh. In fact, Phil, you want to pull up a Gorton's logo while you're at it? And they were all like, yeah, we should have caught that.
Now, Gorton's today, nobody's talking about Gorton's. But back then, like, they had the jingles on television and everything.
Gorton's fisherman.
Exactly. So it was hand in hand with this rebrand, which is why maybe there was that overlap, why confusion set in about whether or not they were.
So there was a fan-made newsletter, and because this is like pre-internet being really a thing, that it was a printed news thing called Islanders Insider, and the Gorton's lawsuit was a rumor, and that newsletter published the rumor as fact, which was called out by the team of no, that is not happening. Shame on you for doing that. But it's stuck in internet lore. There never was. Gorton's had never said anything about it.
That's stunning. That is like a revelation, because that is the reason why I assumed these didn't exist anymore.
No, and like the team immediately, they put out a 6-point plan that it was from the best designers, and SME was the best.
Yeah.
Like, it's not their fault. The audience loved it, which they didn't, and there's no evidence to show they ever asked anyone before it went out. And when it did go out, it was pretty universally panned. The players loved it, which you can find players saying it's fine, and then now they all say it was pretty terrible. But again, you're a player on a team. Who pays your paychecks? Who decides your ice time? Are you going to go against all of them? They said former players loved it, and there is no evidence of that, and no former player came out in favor of it, saying anything. And you'd think if they were in favor, and if it came from the player, Long Island would have listened.
Yeah.
So
oh my God.
None of that. It's jerseys for a new era, because it's not that team anymore. They're not holding on to the past. It's a whole bunch of new players. They traded away Pierre Turgeon for Kirk Muller. Kirk Muller hated it because he was leaving Montreal, where he was captain, and did not want to leave.
Right.
And that's a whole saga in the book of like he wants away. They signed Wendell Clark from Toronto, and he eventually became a problem, and they sent him away. Ziggy Palffy was the up-and-coming star, but they never publicized him because they were showing Mike Milbury on everything. How many teams show their coach as the cool thing to look at?
That's very telling.
Right? You have the Gortons. Yeah, see that? Like,
of Gloucestershire. Gordons of Gloucestershire. That's the title.
Gloucester, Phil. Gloucester.
Wow.
We were up there. Gloucester.
Gloucester?
Worcestershire.
It's close.
You can see the resemblance.
It's
the
close.
hands up, the sou'wester, the beard. You see it.
It's close.
It's close.
But to go back to what you were just talking about, they didn't have a player at the time like Crosby coming out of the lockout that they could rebrand with.
Do you know who the number one was for that?
Mariusz Tchaikovsky.
No.
Brian Berard.
Brett Lindros.
Sweet Jesus.
That was their first round pick. They put a major contract on him, thinking he's just as good as his brother Eric. And he wasn't.
There's a jersey to get in this.
And I'm debating, what do I get on this? He only made it through half of this first season. The other one, Ziggy Palffy, wore 68 for his first 10 games.
Ooh, that's controversial.
I'm pretty sure that's Palffy. Yeah, because he wore 16 otherwise.
Huh.
And the other one would be Rich Pylon when he was wearing 47 in these.
Dude was a goon.
And he's got the name Pylon. Like, come on. So, in the comments, please, who should I get on this? Because this is mine and it's blank and it needs to not be.
Oh, just tell him Lindros, please.
Now, the team knew everyone hated it, but they were hoping for, if there's a good enough roster, because they were trying to make moves, and again, they're cheap, but there were moves made, that a good enough team would make any rebrand look good.
Yeah.
People will follow if it's good. It's like, as a number of players, which should tell you something about the era. It's like, I don't care if we wore pink. They wouldn't care if we wore pink, which is a different era. People would have loved it if we were good, but they weren't, and they just kept careening off a cliff. And the NHL had a limit in mid-October. They had wanted 1 year. If you were going to change your jerseys, stores had to have a year to clear out their stock. The Islanders, it came to October. They had literally 2 games in this, and they said, no, we'll stick around. So they were stuck with it for the next season, no matter what. Locked in. once October came and went.
Gotcha. So they had an out clause.
They had an out clause. They could have made this, okay, this is a 1-year deal and we move away from it and disavow. And they didn't do that in time. What changed it? So everyone universally, they made fun of this the entire time. The number of nautical puns of headlines in this book is worth the price of admission alone. People said they didn't mind the jerseys despite this font. They didn't mind that. They didn't mind the waves at the bottom. They even liked the lighthouse, which, I mean, we've talked about that lighthouse a lot.
Love that logo.
They just hated fish sticks.
Yeah.
And so, how it changed the next season. You know what started in 95, 96? Or 96 specifically? The NHL third jersey program.
Ah.
And so, the next year, they made these as third jerseys. Worn for 15 games that season.
Big brain.
Which is why you'll find this patch on both these with the fisherman logo and these with the regular Islanders logo. Because it was a third jersey or I think rather this one was a third jersey that season.
You and I have always speculated that they had so many of the other ones because now that I've learned that you could have gotten out of that contract but you didn't, they had so much of this base jersey that we had to do something with it. And maybe we just slapped the old logo on it and called it.
Because and that's what people said. We want the logo. They didn't. The old jerseys they wanted. They weren't as rabid about that as the logo. This logo is the logo of the dynasties. This logo needs to be around. Bring back this logo.
Yeah. So
they did. There's even another twist in this because the team would be sold before this was done to John Spano. Do you recognize that name?
I thought it was Wang, but that must be...
No, Wang doesn't happen until 2000.
Okay.
John Spano was a fraud.
I know this story. He wanted to fire the head coach or something like that, or fire the GM or what have you. But he never had the money.
He never had the money. So they brought him in as the savior of the team. They publicized the crap out of him showing up, and then he kept having... Oh, sorry, the wrong check was sent, and that's my secretary made an issue, and the man had like $1 million when he claimed to have like $160 million, and no one vetted him properly. Everyone just kind of assumed someone else had vetted him. Like if Bettman's taking him around, the other Islanders owners are like, well, he must be vetted, and Bettman's like, well, the Islanders owners must have vetted him, and they're like, and it ended up changing the whole process. Long story short, John Spano would go to prison for 71 months in 1999 for fraud and forgery related to this Islanders deal.
That's stunning.
In 2006, he'd go back for 51 months for mail fraud. And in 2015, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for theft and forgery again. And there was part of an ESPN 30 for 30 where he basically was like, I had the time of my life doing this. So
at least he had a brand.
I mean, right?
You got a thing. You're good at it.
The Gluckstern-Milstein Group bought the team in 1998.
That's who it was. The Gluckstein-Milstein Group.
Right, tip of your tongue.
Of course.
They sent a player out to center ice with one of these on, and he tore it off with the old logo underneath.
That's fantastic.
They all sorts of push for things, and really they were more into they wanted the real estate development around the arena rather than actually worrying about the team. Okay. And so Charles Wang would become a minority owner in 2000, and he would be all the way up until his 2014. He passed away in 2018, which I did not realize.
Yeah, not too long ago.
And the Islanders the Gluckstern Group very much admitted they had made mistakes. These were issues. This should never have been done. This should never have been a thing. Oops are bad. They laughed about it, which is probably the only way you're getting out of this.
It was a comedy of errors, it seemed like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they offered, you could bring in any merchandise with this logo and swap it for an old logo t-shirt.
It's almost, wow. So that's something.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of this original merch is long gone.
I know the Pats did that when that tight end was found guilty. Aaron Hernandez. Yeah. They swapped out all the Hernandez jerseys. Wow, that's something.
But like, imagine it just from the hate of this logo.
That's wild.
And then the Islanders would rebrand it to a navy blue version of their 80s look.
Which compared to what they had.
Everything in the 90s got darker and grittier. And so they did.
And then it feeds right into your third jersey there.
Exactly, right? And so the fish sticks is the most egregious change. I mean, they did no research. They changed for reasons that no one else thought of. Oh, we're associated with a losing team that lost in the playoffs twice. They lost the whole idea of we're a dynasty 10 years ago and burned everything to the ground for a logo that was not vetted. No one looked at. It looked like the Gorton's Fisherman.
That's stunning.
Everyone, it is, and the guys from SME talk about at the end of like this changed the industry. Like we can design whatever logos we want, but we have to pay more attention to the team and the environment and the fan base. That you have to acknowledge that history, or you're going to have a bad time.
Are you saying not all Long Islanders are fishermen?
Well,
is that the long-winded way of what you're saying?
Basically, here? Well, and they underestimated the love for this logo. This logo, as silly it can be sometimes, because I do love the NY one, the simple one they do in the third jersey now.
Yeah, it's fine, but there's still that element there.
Right, and like I don't love this logo, but I also didn't grow up with that team.
No, it's always been clunky and like, oh yeah, we need the island there, and oh yeah, we got to make sure that we have the 3 notches or the 4 notches for the Stanley Cups, and
the puck.
It's like everybody gets a little piece of the logo, but at the end of the day, it's all I've ever known the Islanders to look like, except for, well, obviously
3 years with the third jersey, right? Like,
yeah, you're right.
So it changed the game.
Yeah.
It changed the game of design. It is one of those watershed moments in sports history that is purely jerseys, purely this story. And I have not given away the whole story here. There is so much more and so much more detail. I highly recommend getting this book. It was I read it in 3 nights, and that was with everything else I'm doing. And I just like, no, I need like this was good, very good.
Your best jersey story by far.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, it was a bit meandering, and we had photos from 10 years ago, but the story, it's a good story.
Yeah.
Would recommend.
Good.
So, he's Shrems. I'm John. Tell us what you remember about the Islanders. Tell us what you think about these logos. Are there other similar ones you'd like to see? Phil, why don't you take us out?
Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell so you get notifications when we get new videos posted, and come back for another episode of Ugly Thirds.
Zdeno Chara wore one of these jerseys.
The old logo one, not the Fish Sticks Islanders one.
Ah, he wore the Aquafresh and not the Fish Sticks. Okay.